This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. The field of Democrat candidates, Democrat socialist candidates in particular, for president continues to widen as anticipated. Cory Booker and T-Bone announcing their candidacy this morning.
Yeah, see if you're buying any of this.
I believe that we can build a country where no one is forgotten, no one is left behind, where parents can put food on the table, where there are good-paying jobs with good benefits in every neighborhood, where our criminal justice system keeps us safe instead of shuffling more children into cages and coffins, where we see the faces of our leaders on television and feel pride, not shame. It is not a matter of can we. It's a matter of do we have the collective will, the American will. I believe we do.
Are those the pickle bucket guys behind him?
The Bucket Boys outside of Wrigley and the Cell?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, guaranteed rate. Excuse me.
G-spot.
G-spot.
So Cory Booker's in. How exciting.
No, then I think it goes, I am Cory Booker, and I am running for president.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we're going to hear from the actual president on Tuesday night to say the union address rescheduled. Pelosi telling him not getting any funding for border security.
They're having a negotiation over it in there. There's not going to be any wall money.
Well, that's a problem for the president who says no wall money, no deal.
No, because if there's no wall, it doesn't work. She's just playing games. So if there's no wall, it doesn't work.
So how does this get resolved? For more on these topics and Howard Schultz, and also what it's like to be a barista if Howard Schultz is running for president. They're getting instruction on how to handle Howard Schultz questions from Starbucks customers. Oh, yeah. We're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier, of course, host of Fox News Special Report, 5 p.m. Chicago time during the week. His new book, 3 Days in Moscow, Ronald Reagan and the Fall of the Soviet Empire. Bret, thanks for joining us again. And we're happy to hear you and your family are in good health after that little car accident scare.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we were blessed. We could have been a lot worse. So everybody's on the mend.
All right, very good. No serious injuries. Everybody's good.
Yeah, well, my wife had a concussion, so she's still bouncing back from that. My son had 14 stitches.
Ooh.
He's okay, and then my 8-year-old lost a tooth, but he's a hockey player, and he thinks it's cool.
And plus, he gets $1 for that if he puts it under the pillow, right?
Gosh,
he looks like Ovechkin now.
I mean,
he looks like Ovechkin.
That's horrifying. I did not know it was that's severe. Did your car? Do you know how it happened? It was just an icy road, and your car flipped over.
Oh yeah, I know how it happened. I was driving. I tried to stop at a stop sign about 300 yards from the stop sign. It was pure ice. Montana's not a big salt the roads or plow the roads kind of place. And so it was just solid ice, and we slid for 300 yards through the stop sign into the intersection and then got T-boned by a pickup truck, flipped around, and then went into a ditch, and the car flipped over. So it's I'd like not to remember it, but everybody is good, and fortunately the guy in the truck was fine. So and there was a good Samaritan who helped us out. So 1, always wear your seatbelts. 2, if you see somebody in trouble, stop. This guy Zach Black was awesome.
Okay,
and was everybody in your car wearing their seatbelts?
Everybody except my son, who got the 14 stitches. So he did not put his seatbelt on, and he flew across the back of the car when we flipped over.
See, I have a son, too, that never puts his seatbelt on, and I'm going to tell him this story. So
there you go.
Because
no,
it's a real
it's
learning
ridiculous.
lesson. Even if you're in an Uber in the back seat, especially with winter weather, just do it. It's so silly not to.
Well, pretty soon, with the elimination of fossil fuels, we're all going to be back to bicycles anyway, so that'll obviate all of this business. All right. Well, again, glad that your family is good and on the mend, and thankful for that Good Samaritan, as you mentioned. But wanted to get to some of the politics of this. So the field shaping up. The Democrats are intent on getting these debates started in just a few months, and so it's sort of right now the window to get in or forever hold your peace for candidates, and thus the concern about an independent candidacy of Howard Schultz derailing all of the enthusiasm for the 24 candidates that are going to enter on the Dem side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty still blown away by the reaction to Howard Schultz. He's not even in yet. I've seen him speak. He's really not that enthusiastic speaker. He could use a little caffeine in the speech, but he's done well in the Q&A, talking to people. And just by the thought of him getting in the race, the reaction has been overwhelming on the Democratic side. That you got to stop him. We're going to boycott Starbucks if it happens. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, obviously they sense a real threat there. Michael Bloomberg even putting out the stats that he had studied an independent run, and it would embolden or help President Trump for re-election.
Wow. And so how many do you think that we're going to have in total? I mean, we have Cory Booker today announcing his candidacy. I imagine Joe Biden soon and possibly Hillary Clinton. What are you hearing inside the bubble there in D.C.?
No Hillary.
No, I think Hillary Clinton's out. John Podesta said she's not going to run. I believe him. I think the over-under is 20, actually. 20 candidates. You remember we had 17 in the GOP primary in 2015. Our debate started that year in August. This time they'll start in June of this year. And I think there's going to be probably 20, maybe 18 candidates. You've still got a bunch of candidates who are out there looking at it. Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, and let alone the candidates that we're not even talking about, the South Bend mayor. You've got
Can you
Mitch
pronounce his
Landrieu
name?
from Louisiana. Yeah, he's got an exploratory committee. Oh, Buttigieg.
Buttigieg, right? Buttigieg.
Yeah.
He's easy on a bumper sticker.
Yeah. Well,
Just rolls right off the tongue, right, Brett?
I don't know. In Illinois, we elected a Blagojevich, so you never know. Here's the thing.
That would be a good ticket. That'd be a good ticket.
Blagojevich and Buttigieg.
Buttigieg and Blagojevich.
Can I buy a vowel?
It sings. Is anybody in the Dem field going to run to sort of the center left, or is it all going to be a race to see who's going to make government the biggest and most expensive?
Well, so already the first candidate in was John Delaney, former congressman from Maryland, who's a multimillionaire businessman. He's a kind of a centrist guy. He's spent $1 million already in Iowa. He's been in New Hampshire a bunch. He's just not getting a lot of traction. The power on the party is on the left, on the progressive side. I think you're going to get John Hickenlooper, the governor of Colorado. He'll probably get in a more of a moderate place. But for the most part, it'll be a battle to the left. And you're already seeing it play out with Medicare for all and what the definition of that is and how much does it cost, and the Green New Deal and how much does that cost and what does it do.
And how big the wealth tax is that you want to impose.
Right.
So we have one government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. We know that. A second one is looming. What do you think President Trump should do? I mean, Nancy Pelosi said yesterday, no funding is going to go toward building that wall. Should he declare a national emergency and get this whole thing over with?
You know, it's frustrating to cover because in that same press conference, and obviously that soundbite from Nancy Pelosi was picked up by everybody. No, there's zero funding for the wall in this compromise. But then she was further pressed, are you in favor of increased barriers along the border? Yes, I am. So strengthening the fencing? Yes, you can strengthen the fencing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want to call a wall, and what do you want to call barrier, and what do you want to call fencing? If the president is back of the negotiations as far as the semantics, I think that they can get a deal. But if it's left up to Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, I think you're going to be battling over what is a wall.
Well, right, and you had two House Democrats, Nita Lowey and Lucille Ayard, who basically seemed to contradict Nancy Pelosi, at least her top-line pronouncement that you mentioned, no border wall funding. They were talking sort of in generic terms about the broad outlines of a deal. And so if Trump gets, I don't know, a few $1 billion for Normandy fencing and he just calls that a wall. Are we done here? Do we get a deal before Tuesday night?
Yes, I think it's still possible. That's where they're headed. I think Democrats will ask for some other things, but I think it's possible to get a deal. I think that shutdown did one thing. It made people think we really don't like shutdowns, and on both sides, because Democrats are hearing from their constituents saying this is ridiculous. Just get some funding for a wall. Just give them something. And then Republicans were saying, you guys are idiots. Why are we shutting down the government? What was the upside? So I think they're going to do everything they can to avoid a shutdown this time.
Is there any early indication about the contents of Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday night? Is it going to be your typical braggadocious snore, or is he going to do anything interesting?
We don't know the content yet, but with Donald Trump, I would bet interesting is where they lean. There'll be more personal stories, I think, like you saw last time, where the guy with the crutch who made it across to South Korea from the north.
Yeah.
He was in the First Lady's area. I think, it'll be something, but the fascinating juxtaposition of Nancy Pelosi now behind his left shoulder, reacting or not reacting to everything he says is going to be interesting theater anyway.
All right. He is Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, special report, 5 p.m. weekdays, Chicago time, and the book, 3 Days in Moscow, Ronald Reagan and the Fall of the Soviet Empire. Bret, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
We're so glad you guys are safe. And Bret joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.